Welcome everybody to another episode of the X Connect podcast. Today I'm here with Shay Kashif. Everybody, you know him from Good Morning Exeter.
Yep.
Waking up every morning and saying, "Good morning, Exeter." It's great to have you on the show, Shay.
Glad to be here, Craig. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Shay, something I didn't know about you is that you actually grew up in London,
Yeah.
right?
That's right.
And you weren't just born there, you lived there until you were 7.
Yeah.
And then after you lived there until you were 7, you moved to the Bay Area, California.
That's right. Yeah.
Tell me about that transformation. What was it like growing up in London, and what was it like leaving?
Yeah. I mean, that's a great question. Something I think back to pretty often. Looking back to London, I think that growing up in London for me was this kind of transformative experience where my parents are both immigrants from Pakistan, and for me, those early transformative years in London were great. I mean, I received a tremendous educational core. The UK has a tremendous educational system, and my family was always supporting me. It felt as though we were very tight-knit, and I was a kid. Life was so simple for me back then. And I think that the biggest thing about London to me that maybe not ticked me off, but the thing I noticed was that there seems to be this kind of, social hierarchy, this class hierarchy perhaps in the United Kingdom, and we have a queen, a king now. Back then it was a queen, right? There's always this sense of royalty, of there's class, there's nobility, there's someone better than you. We literally have a House of Lords in our parliament. And then moving to the U.S., there was something empowering about the U.S. to me, moving here. I entered as a second grader in the United States, and we were doing U.S. history, the little second grade version of U.S. history where they teach you all the great things about America. And I remember the thing they always started with was that all men are created equal. And that was something that, to me as a kid, really stood out to me, right? Because it's all men are created equal, right? There's no such thing as royalty. There's no such thing as these lords. You're just as good as the president. The president is just as good as you. And for me, that was really what it meant to be an American for much of my early life. And that's what it still means to be an American to me. It means having this sense of equality, this sense that I'm just as good as anybody else here, regardless of my race, regardless of my gender, regardless of my sexuality, whatever you want to call it, but we're all American, we're all equal. And that's what was really, I think, the biggest shift for me moving to the United States was that sense of equality. But funnily enough, I think that I have this great story I like to tell. The people are also a lot nicer. Maybe that's just a California thing, but I think the people in California are a lot nicer than the UK. I have this story I love to tell. When I was a kid in the UK, they used to serve shepherd's pie every Wednesday in the cafeteria. And I remember I hated shepherd's pie. Like, I absolutely hated it. I would throw up every time I ate it. But I would still eat it because the lunch ladies, boy, I'll tell you, they were terrifying, right? Like, you go up to them, and if you don't finish your food, they would grill you, they would chastise you, they would call you names, they would say you're wasting food. And I was so terrified of that every day I used to finish that shepherd's pie on my plate, and I hated it, and I used to go and throw up afterwards, right? But I still finished it because I was terrified of them. And then when I came to the U.S., I came to California. I'm at my Californian school, and one day they had shepherd's pie in the cafeteria, and I'm like, oh crap, right? I mean, like, you're in California. Who eats shepherd's pie here? I mean, the UK makes sense. Their food sucks, but we have like pizza, burgers, whatever. Why shepherd's pie?
Yeah.
And so, sure enough, I was terrified, and I tried taking a few bites, but I was out of practice. I couldn't finish an entire shepherd's pie, and I didn't quite feel like throwing up afterwards anyway. And so I had a little bit still left, and I went up to the lunch lady, terrified. It's the scene from Oliver Twist where he goes up like for more food, but I want less food. I don't want more, right? I'm gonna go up to her, and I'm like, well, I can't finish this. What should I do? And this Californian lunch lady, she's the sweetest lady you'll ever meet. She looks at me like totally confused. She's like, why don't you just throw it away? And I think that moment for me, that comparison really spoke to me as to the difference between America, between California and the UK, culturally, socially, and in all these regards. And I don't know, it's a story I love to tell, so yeah.
Were there any distinctions when you grew up in London versus moving to the Bay Area that made each place feel like home? Or when you came to California, were you like, oh, this is my new place, this is where I feel at home? Or was there a piece of home in each different place?
I think it's a great question as well, but I think there still was a piece of home in both places. When I left my house in the UK, I was a little kid, I was 7, and I was very attached, and I didn't want to leave. I was born there, and I had this very profound attachment to it. Coming to California, I think, was a big shift for me, but I loved it as well. I mean, my mom always says this about me, I tend to adjust very quickly. Yeah. I don't dwell on things long, I don't dwell on places long, and sometimes for the worse, I don't dwell on people long either. And so, as a result of that, coming to California to me was kind of like this moment of a completely new world, right? I mean, the the weather's different, the people are different, the accent's different. The only commonality, it seems, is that we all spoke English, right? Other than that, it seemed very different. But I would say, when people ask me where's home, I say California, but for a number of years I used to say California, but I used to live in the UK.
Yeah.
And I think that as I've gotten older, I've lost that bond with the UK, if that makes sense, with London, where I used to live. And I think maybe that's just the years kind of taking their toll on me. But I did this idea of a home, this idea of, where's home? I don't really agree with the idea of a home personally. I think this is kind of sound a little silly, but I'll explain why I don't agree with the idea of a home. Because I think that a lot of humans, for us, home is where the heart is. I mean, right? That's the phrase you always hear, home is where the heart is. And, you can't expect someone's heart to be fundamentally attached to a specific place forever, right? I mean, you will always come to like where you are. You'll always come to accept your circumstances as is. And so I think that this idea of home is really always shifting. It's funny because, if you look on Google Maps, and I noticed this a couple weeks ago, actually, it was a couple months ago, but I notice it every once in a while, and it always reminds me, is that on Google Maps, it now shows my home as Exeter. And I think that for me it's a little funny, it's a little ironic, but that really shows the entire concept of how home is this transient idea, right? It's where you are at the moment. There's no such thing as a defined home because, especially in our modern world, I mean, we're always on the move, right? And so, for me, where's home is less of a question of where do you actually reside, factually, where do you reside, but it's more so where is your heart right now? What people is your heart with? What place is your heart with, if that makes sense?
Yeah. So you mentioned that life when you were younger felt more simple, but when coming to the United States, that was a transformation in a little bit of your identity and where you felt at home with. How do you think that shaped who you are, that transition from being in the place that you were born and raised and you were attached to, and then you kind of over the years lose that attachment, adapt to this new environment? Like, what do you think that's done to you?
I think it's definitely had a profound effect on me in terms of it's made me very resilient to change. I've switched a number of schools throughout the years as well because of moving around. I've had to adapt. I was a new upper, so I had to adapt here. I had to adapt to my high school. I didn't know anyone there, and I think that that's a quality that I've really gained from all this moving around. Is I've learned to adapt. I've learned to accept the circumstances, and I've learned to kind of enter the world around me and not be afraid and be willing to go out there and get out and get after it. And I think that was, for me, that started with moving to the United States, definitely, because I was born in the UK and I moved to the United States, as you know. And I say life was simple for me, not just it was simple in the UK, but for the couple of years while I was here, at the very start, it was simple as well, because you're a kid, you don't really understand what's going on in the wider world, and you're kind of just there, right? And life is simple. You have a schedule, you watch cartoons, you go on vacations with your parents, stuff like that, and it's great, right? There's nothing you really have to worry about. But as I got older, I think I really saw that stress begin to kind of work its way on my parents. Immigrating to another new country and all the getting jobs and taxes and house and rent and all that stuff. And I think that really taught me the importance in America of, it's sink or swim, right?
Yeah.
And I think for better or for worse, that's how our society is. It's sink or swim. And really, I think that's made me a more hardworking person, and that's taught me that, life isn't so simple. It isn't just, I'll just work a 9 to 5 all day and then I'll retire at 60, because there's so many things that can go wrong and there's so much that can happen in a lifetime. And I think that because of that, I've adopted this kind of hardworking mindset where I want to not only, succeed, not only just live, but I also want to thrive. I think that's, if that makes sense, right? I want to do more than just, live a normal life. I want to go up there, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally. So we've talked about where you grew up, what impact that's had on you. Let's talk about Good Morning Exeter a little bit. Everyone on campus knows you for that. You've done episodes with Principal Rawson, with other students, with faculty. Like, it's a big deal.
Yeah.
Coming here as a new upper, you're a senior now.
Yeah.
So last year was your first year, and that's when you started it. Like, how did this even come about? Like, you're at this new boarding school, right, in New Hampshire. Like, most people, you mentioned that when you were younger, you were a little more introverted too.
Mm-hmm.
Like, everyone who's going to see someone waking up every morning saying, "Good morning, Exeter," they're going to be like, "Hey, this kid's super extroverted, he's friendly."
Yeah.
Like, when did that transformation come about where you became more extroverted? And, like, what pushed you in that direction to do Good Morning Exeter itself?
Yeah, I'll be honest. As you said, I actually was not extroverted until I came to Exeter. I was very introverted, I would say. I didn't really think outside, the box. I wouldn't really interact with people I didn't know, and I wasn't too good at that. And I was kind of happy with just sticking to myself. And I think when I got to Exeter, as I mentioned earlier, through life I've become very skilled at adapting. And for me, I think adapting at Exeter meant that I couldn't just stay in my little bubble. I had to go out and meet more people, otherwise I would sink, right? I thought that, as a new upper, these people have already known each other for 2 years, and unless I really put myself out there, I'm just going to be alone. And I think that was kind of like a survival mechanism that kicked in at first, was I have to be extroverted, I have to go out and meet people, I have to go and do things, right? And for me, for the first month without Good Morning Exeter, that meant going to a lot of clubs. And I still kind of found difficulty in a lot of these clubs, I think, because, coming in as a new upper, there's people in your grade who've already been doing these clubs for 2 years, and obviously they're going to get preference from the co-heads. And, and there was always this little bit of a condescending attitude where it was like, oh, you're a new upper, and we don't want to give you any sort of position, or we don't want to give you preference because it's going to annoy the students who have been here for 2 years and are putting in all the effort, even though you might be just as skilled as them, right? And I think that really kind of annoyed me, that really hurt me, because I thought I was being denied opportunities at every single intersection. And for me, that was the worst part about it, is I was having my sense of value, my sense of worth, my sense of achievement defined by other people. And I think that was the one piece of advice I'd give to anyone, is never let yourself be put in that situation where your sense of value, your sense of worth is defined by those around you, and there's nothing you can do about it. And I think Good Morning Exeter to me was really a way to show the community that I could make an effort, that I could be a positive, I could make a contribution, and I didn't need anyone to tell me if I could or couldn't. I could just do it. And I have this attitude, I think, in life. It's do now, apologize later, right? I think that's a pretty good attitude to have. And for Good Morning Exeter, I knew it was this positive thing, like, what are we going to call me out on? It's a positive thing, right? And on a more, interpersonal level, I noticed that there's a lot of people at the school who aren't happy. They have all the things in the world. They have all the co-head positions. They have a perfect GPA, and they're miserable. And I was thinking, like, what is it really worth it to have all this and still be miserable? And for me, Good Morning Exeter, because there's people who go here, they're extremely smart. They're some of the most gifted people you'll meet in the world. And I was just totally torn, because I was like, how can some of these people be so sad, right? Like, how can you not be happy? How can you be depressed? And there's a friend who told me once, there's no good mornings at Exeter. And I took that personally. I was like, you know what?
Is this after you started the show?
This was, it was the first week or so. He told me there's no good mornings at Exeter.
Yeah.
And I think for me, that was really what kind of pushed me to make this a big thing. Because I was like, I'll prove you wrong. I'll show that there can always be a good morning. It's just a matter of perspective. And for me, that's what Good Morning Exeter really is. It's a way to show these people that there's so much beauty in the world. It's a way to remind us all that, no matter how tough life might get, it's still a beautiful day. It's still a great day. And there's so much going on in the world, and it's a way to connect these people with their families, with their classmates, with their peers, with their faculty. And, that's for me really what Good Morning Exeter is. I think it's sort of this glue that I hope kind of helps hold the community together when we all might be, wrapped up in our own little worlds and our own little stresses. And not that that's a bad thing. I think that that's okay. I think sometimes we all just need a little reminder to push us in the right direction.
Yeah, wow, that's really powerful. I had no idea, and I'm sure most people didn't know that it was this kind of this tension that you saw in the community, especially coming here as a new upper. It's not like you were completely solidified in the community for years. You came to this place, you're like, wow, this is something different, and you kind of you work to put that glue together, as you said. I noticed that every end of one of your little episodes or little bits, every single morning you end with, "It's a beautiful day to be an Exonian."
Yeah.
Is what you were just talking about trying to spread this little light every day? Is that where that comes from?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, there's this phrase I really like, and it's this idea that in pursuit of these grandiose ideas of beauty, we lose sight of the regular beauty of the everyday world. And this is a funny story I'll tell you. Every single day I try to get up a little early and I go for a nice little walk around campus.
Yeah.
And I try to notice. I look around and I see there's always something beautiful you'll notice. You'll hear the birds chirping. The other day I woke up and it was the most beautiful sunrise I'd ever seen. Well, not ever, but it was a really beautiful sunrise. It's been a couple months since I've seen one like that, right? You'll notice the diamond glints in the snow. You'll notice leaves rustling. You'll notice, and especially after fresh snow, it's so beautiful. And I think that's some sort of beauty that we often lose sight of because we're pursuing these grand ideas of success, of beauty. Oh, we're going to, we're going to get perfect grades. We're going to go to this great college and we're going to do all these great things in life. And in the pursuit of that, I think we lose sight of the daily beauty of the world. I think we convince ourselves that it's okay to be miserable if we're doing it in pursuit of a greater beauty, a greater goal. And I think for me, it's a beautiful day to be an Exonian. It's just a way to remind people that there's so much daily small beauty in the world that we forget to appreciate. And it's a beautiful world. It's an extremely beautiful world. There's so much you'll notice. There's so much beauty in the world. And I would be one to say, as an optimist, that I think the beauty in the world far exceeds all the bad, all the evil in the world. And so really that's what It's a Beautiful Day to be an Exonian is. It's a way to remind people to appreciate that daily beauty, that idea that rain or shine, it's still a beautiful day to be alive. It's still a beautiful day to be an Exonian.
Yeah, I'm curious. Every morning you said you wake up, you observe the nature, which is beautiful. Like most Exonians are saying, oh, I'm going to bed super late. Some of them are pulling all-nighters, kind of what we were just talking about, everyone being overloaded with this work, and it becomes a really cloudy mindset.
Yeah.
Like just from a curiosity standpoint, like what's your like routine like? Like you finish homework, you go to bed on time, I'm sure, and what time do you wake up?
I usually wake up, I think, around 6 to 6:30. Sometimes a little earlier if I have to shave, but usually 6 to 6:30.
Yeah.
And I think with the idea of work, and you're probably wondering, like, how do you wake up and get like a full 8 hours? I'm kind of a workaholic, I'll be honest with you. I can't really relax until I've done all my work. And so if you'll ever notice, like during department meetings or in the middle of the day, whenever I have a break, I'm just grinding away at my homework. I get stuff done far ahead of time. And I'm usually done by the evening, thank God. So I never really have to work past like 5. And I don't know, it makes me feel kind of like a jerk saying that, I think, because I know that that's not necessarily true for everyone here. No matter how much you try it, there's so much work you can be overloaded with. But I think I would really encourage, and I think this can be great for everyone, is to have a good work-life balance. You first need to be able to get your work out of the way. And I think that's a huge part of that is time management, which is another skill I've developed a lot throughout the years. But I think time management is ultimately the ultimate thing, right? But it's the greatest thing that you can do for yourself, not only as an Exonian, but as a human, because it frees up your time and it makes you really, the relaxation when you don't have this looming specter of all this work ahead of you is the best feeling ever, yeah.
Was there a specific moment where, maybe you wanted to start Good Morning Exeter, but you were nervous too, I'm sure, right? You're in a new environment, you don't know anyone. Mm-hmm. Like, how did you feel that was going to be perceived by everyone across campus?
Yeah. For me, it was kind of this feeling that I would be okay if I was a little insulted. I have generally thick skin. Yeah. And I thought that at least for the first couple of weeks, it would kind of be like, look at this idiot. He's like waking up and yelling good morning at everyone.
Yeah.
And I was kind of ready to take a little bit of teasing on that because I was like, they're going to think this is silly. They're going to think this is cringe. But I was really pleasantly surprised. I think that there's so much capacity people have for good and to appreciate good things in the world. And, we're often so caught up in how people perceive us that we lose sight of that. And so I'd really say that for me, that was probably the biggest thing is I was definitely a little nervous. I was definitely a little afraid that people would kind of make fun of me. But I didn't let that stop me. I didn't let that dictate what I wanted. I think that, sometimes you have to be ready to take a little pushback because chances are that pushback won't even happen. You just have to have the mindset to be ready to face it.
Shay, what's something you're passionate about right now that most people don't know?
That's a fun one. I like that one. I have a great answer for this ready as well.
Yeah.
I really like sewing. I know it's going to sound crazy, man. It sounds a little silly. Like, Shay, you do sewing?
Yeah.
Yes, I do sewing. And I think it really started because I bought a coat, like a little nice pea coat, and a button fell off after a number of months. And I was a little upset about that. And so I asked a friend to sew the coat for me. And she did. And it was very embarrassing, right? But it's okay. Like, I got the sewing done. And then I realized, this is kind of neat. I want to learn how to do this. And so I did. I put in a couple hours learning how to sew. I learned how to sew buttons. And then there was a hole in one of my sweaters, my knit sweaters that came about. And I'm like, I got to fix this as well. So I learned how to sew that. Then I had to rehem my pants. I learned how to sew that. I had to, thin my tie. I learned how to sew the back of a tie. And I've realized that I kind of have this passion for maintaining a lot of the clothes I own, for maintaining a lot of clothes, and for modifying clothes as well. I think it's a form of great creative expression to be able to modify what you wear. And for me, I think sewing is a great way to do that. It's a nice little fun hobby. It's relaxing. It's analog. It's totally digital free. And I think it really kind of centers you. It's a sort of repetitive action, but in a good way. It kind of builds your mechanical skills and, with your body kind of set towards some purpose, some greater sense of what you're doing, some objective, it really frees up your mind to think, because it's not really a very mind-intensive thing. Sewing's not a mental-intensive thing, and so it really relaxes your mind. It gives you a lot of time to think about the day, to reflect, and I think it's pretty beautiful because you get to do that, but you also get to kind of express yourself in this quasi-artistic way, where what you literally wear, you're influencing that. So yeah.
Yeah. It seems like you have a very orderly way of day-to-day life, which is great.
Yeah.
So Shay, we're coming up on the end. It's been a great interview so far. I'm so glad you were able to do this. But we have just a few more questions for you. If a student at Exeter or beyond, they're trying to start something, maybe it's somewhat similar to Good Morning Exeter. It's something outspoken, but they feel nervous or unsure, which is understandable.
Yeah.
What would you want them to know?
Yeah. I'm going to open with something I think I heard Miss Shaw say once, and it's a great piece of advice, and I repeat that a lot. It's never let someone with no vision tell you how to see. And I think that's very powerful. And that really is what informs my worldview. And I think if someone wants to start something, I would encourage them to, think about that same idea. If they're nervous about judgment, they're nervous about people not supporting them. Because, I think another thing Mark Zuckerberg said once is, you may say, I don't know how to get 1 million people involved in anything.
Yeah.
And he said, the secret is no one does when they start out. No one knows how to get people involved in anything when they start out. And for Good Morning Exeter, I didn't know when I started out that it would become such a campus phenomena. I honestly thought that I would keep making these videos, and after a while, people would lose interest and it would die out. But I've been really pleasantly surprised. And I think that really I would just say to anyone who wants to start something like that, I would encourage them to just get out and get after it and do it, right? Don't worry about all the planning. Don't worry about looking 5 years in advance, because if you start now, then it's easier for you to keep going. And if you start now, then you don't have to worry about these plans, because the more time you waste thinking about making this perfect is time that you could be using to make this actually happen. And to make something perfect, it needs to happen first. And I would say to anyone who wants to start something, go for it. The school offers so many tremendous resources, man. There are people who will support you. There are people who want to see this happen, and you can change the world with that same attitude.
That's some great advice right there. Shay, looking forward, you're a senior right now.
Yeah.
Looking forward towards college, which you'll be off in a few months. What's going to happen with Good Morning Exeter?
That's a great question. And like I just said, I don't plan things too far in advance. I have no clue what's going to happen in Good Morning Exeter. I have a vision for what I want to see happen, which I'll share. I think I want to see it going, definitely. I want to continue to happen. There's a couple of uppers who want to do like a Good Morning Exeter talk show, and I'm totally on board with that. I'm looking forward to it. As to who my successor will be, I've been asked this a lot, and I have absolutely no clue. I don't know what I'm going to do with that, but I'll figure something out in the spring, and we'll see what will happen. But I think right now the biggest thing for me is I just want to continue doing this for the people, and I want this to continue to happen even without me, because I think that it's really tremendous for the community to have this form of daily video journalism where they're able to keep in touch with all that's happening.
That's great, Jay. We've learned about your roots, your influences, everything about Good Morning Exeter, and even the future of the show. And this has been a great interview. Thank you so much, Shay.
Thank you, Craig. It's been a pleasure.
Everybody, make sure to check out the next episode of the X Connect podcast. But there's another great one with our fellow Shay Kashif. Thank you for watching.
Thank you.